What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/MaliciousCompliance. Alright, this story's called Math Teacher Told Me to Get Lost Till I Found Myself a Better Attitude. Math has never been my strong suit, but being the eldest and so given the must have all A's unless there's a good reason, I really tried. Lots of studying practice problems. My dad's solution to my struggle was constant worksheets every day. I was to sit down at the table until my math was done and completely correct, with my dad's method of tutoring being exclaim, "Oh, this is easy. Give me the answer." I hated this. I wanted to know how to do it, not just the end result. Explain his method in what I swear was shorthand plus complicated as it could get, or, if I didn't understand, he'd repeat previous steps but do so louder. I explained this to show how easily stressed I'd get about math. Not to rag on my dad, he's human like the rest of us, and teaching and communicating was never his strong suit. He did hardwire into me for every problem I had to painstakingly show my work all the way through and then explain how I got there by proofing and writing my thought process behind it. My math homework was always at least 4 to 5 pages front and back, but at least there was no way for teachers to say I didn't show my work, right? Then I meet my 7th grade teacher. Let's call her Mrs. Shrill. I had for math and science in a block, or back-to-back periods, which 95% of that time was used for math and study time. Hardly learned any science, but that's another point. We didn't get along. She hated my constant questions after she'd explain something, usually saying I should pay better attention when she teaches. I understood her methods less than I did my dad's, so would almost always want help during study time. After a while, she explained that I was taking time away from other students who needed help and to hold my questions till after class. Okay, so I'd try just that, only to be waved away as she'd say she has to prep for her next class. Could I have told this to my parents or to another teacher? Yes, but I saw this as whining, and so just kept trying to figure things out. Math grade slipped. She always gave everyone an A in science, probably to cover that we rarely did anything for that subject. I wasn't about to rock that boat. I get more tutoring time at home and told to pay better attention in class. Fun times. This went on for 3 to 4 months, with me desperately trying to hold on to a C. Then, life said, let's take a break on the lemons. My parents wanted to take a road trip to see some family friends almost all the way across the United States. Would take a month and a half. I was friends with their kids, so yay. And I saw this as a break from that dreaded woman. So double yay. Now cue the storm clouds. My teachers assigned me homework packets to do while on vacation, which wasn't surprising. The part that made my soul shrivel inside was how much Mrs. Shrill had given me. Just under half the damn math book I was to complete before coming back. Much of the road trip there consisted of my nose in my homework, trying to get it all done before we got there, so I could relax and have fun. Or having to take care of my toddler sibling who, of course, hated being fed while in the car, but can't not feed the baby, so those were glorious moments of screams and trying to keep the mess to a minimum. To all eldest kids, isn't it fun being the substitute parent? Had no problems doing the other classwork, so of course went through that first. Always loved history, English, and reading in almost any genre was a stress reliever, so those subjects have always been easy A's for me. I was thankful Mrs. Shrill hadn't given any science homework, but even then, I struggled to get through even 3 chapters before we got to Michigan. Still not sure if it was good or bad that Dad couldn't help me at all, what with the cranky toddler being louder than a jet, but at least I didn't have him timing my progress by thumping his fist, so I'll take that. Arrived to the family friend's house. I'll call them the Lemon family. Amazing people. They used to live nearby, but a job crisis made them move a couple of years prior. Of course, I want to spend time with the kids, relatively my age, and just relax and have fun. I got a day before I was told to finish the homework so it would be all done for the ride home. Of course, Dad tries to help, but as usual, this resulted in many frustrating hours wishing I was anywhere else but at the table. This went on for a couple of days before Mrs. Lemon, to this day I still say thank you, saved me by sending my dad off to hang out with her husband, saying enough is enough. She needs a break. Made me tea, gave me a cool book to read for an hour before she took it upon herself to try helping me. She homeschools her kids, and I quickly found out I had no problem understanding her. Still took me time, but after maybe 3 to 4 days of homework sessions, every time she'd send Dad off with her husband, with her, I finished everything. Years later, I found out she wanted to step in and help earlier, but Dad had been firm in that I was his kid, his responsibility to teach. She let it be until she had had enough and convinced Mom to help her get him out of the house. To this day, I'm still grateful. We only could stay for so long, but at least I had the last 3 days to just play and hang out before we started driving back home. Aside from more screaming and a couple side trips, the return home was uneventful. Dad looked over the homework to confirm I had done everything correctly, and thankfully, that was that. Thank you is perturbed still that someone else had an easier time teaching me, but didn't say anything to me about it. I was mainly relieved I had somehow finished all that math, and so my grade was sure to go up. First day back, I'm almost giddy to turn in 10 chapters worth of homework to Mrs. Shrill. She even, surprisingly, said that I had done well, and it was good to see I was finally taking the time to learn. That irked, but whatever, you horrid woman, I completed it. Then, as further reward for my sudden learning curve, I could help her help the other students during study time as they went through the chapters. Apparently, they only made it through 3 chapters after I had left, so helping with the next 7 should be a good experience for me. Fairly certain my face went, "Error, reloading," when she told me this. Until I was able to respond that I'd really rather not help out that way. No thanks. To which she was so lovely to point out, this would show I really learned something instead of probably cheating my way through the homework. Otherwise, I would have shown my work. Excuse me? I lost it and profusely maintained that all of what she held was my work alone. And how much more work needs to be shown before that's to be believed? Her face, now curdling like spoiled milk, told me to get lost until I found myself a better attitude. Still fuming, I did just that. For the next week, come period 6 to 7, I'd head over to the library and read to my heart's content until the bell rang signaling buses. Now, of course, my parents eventually were called and informed I was skipping, and so they were peeved and demanded an explanation, as well as being very interested to know what happened to my math homework, as online it showed as missing 0%. Now very nervous, certain I had an F for the first time and wasn't sure what punishment that'd warrant, I explained yes, I did turn it in and how that unfolded. At this point, I'm getting basilisk stares when asked why I didn't go to class after this, and I explained that she basically told me to. Since I hadn't found the attitude she was looking for, I didn't have the urge to attend class. After what seemed an eternity of silence, my dad busted up laughing, then they both hugged me, told me, "With balls like that, you'll do fine in life," then admitted maybe he wasn't the best person to help with math. Mom had been wearing him down that she should try after I did so well with Mrs. Lemon. showing it was more likely communication issues that were preventing me from learning quicker. But I didn't find this out for a long while. While I might be a tad scarred from his math teaching methods, my dad is a loving father, and when the need calls, has no problem being our advocate at school, even if it requires roaring. He's always been a vibrantly emotional person. He told me I could keep going to the library until he said otherwise. He'd take care of things. I was extremely happy to follow this. Think I got 2 more library days before things were handled, and I had to attend Mrs. Shrill's class again. Dad had verbally berated her in front of the principal, how I should be credited for all the work I did and not require me to help teach in any way. That until the class had caught up to where she had assigned me in the book, I should only have to take the tests and be left alone. To make up for putting so much homework on me when it was a gross overestimate of where she thought the class would be when I returned. She had tried to defend herself, saying she gave so much with the hope of maybe I'd learn without taking up too much of her time. After all, parents or a tutor are supposed to help with homework. She wanted someone else to teach me. The reason she didn't credit me for my homework, as I've always been slow, never really showed my work, and so thought I had cheated. Dad always checked my math homework and made sure I showed my work up to his standards. This did not help her in the slightest, and to appease my dad, the principal said I could essentially be left alone in class till they had caught up to the last chapter I worked on, as well as getting credit for my vacation homework, aside from whatever questions I'd gotten wrong. Ha! Already knew everything was correct. Suddenly, I loved her class for a decent while. Meant I could just read aside from tests. Once the class caught up, that ended. But with Mom helping me with studying, math wasn't so bad to learn. First time I had really stood up to a teacher like that, and it ended up changing my life for the better. Still say math isn't my favorite, give me music theory any day, but I ended up not being too bad at it. What a wholesome story there. I think it was really cool how your dad defended you. My parents would never. No. He always gave the teachers the benefit of the doubt, not me. But that's okay. I had to get bad grades all on my own, and I'm proud of it. I'm kidding, I was decently smart. But that was a really cool story. That teacher really sucked. She obviously did not want to do what she was doing, because every teacher I've ever had was always willing to put in extra time for the students to learn. They always stayed after school, always did their best to help. And, you know, teachers like that are amazing. But this teacher, she needs to find something else to do. This story's called, "You Would Like Me to Adhere to the Contract? In that case, I require a hotel until you resolve all of these issues." A few years ago, I moved back to the city in which I was a university student, as I was now a young professional and had experienced significant issues with housemates in the past, non-payment of bills, having to do all the cleaning. I decided that I would rent a small flat from a reputable agency which specifically catered for young professionals such as myself. I went and viewed the property, which was quite messy and needed to have a few things addressed, i.e. the vinyl flooring in the kitchen was ripped, one of the drawers in the freezer was broken. But seeing as tenants were still living in the property, and the agency assured me that between tenants the landlord would clean the property and resolve any small issues prior to moving in, I happily signed a contract and wrote a check for the deposit and first month of rent. 2 months later, I moved into the property and was welcomed with the following issues. Note: I just happened to stumble upon the list I made at the time when clearing out an old hard drive a few days ago. General: the entire property had not been cleaned, fire door wouldn't close, breach of fire regulations. The previous tenants had left much of their belongings behind, namely clothes and bedding. General waste was present in all rooms. Bins had not been emptied. Batteries had been removed from all of the fire and smoke alarms. By law, they were meant to be hardwired in rented property. Half of all light bulbs had been removed from the property. Hallway, main supply and circuit breaker ripped from the wall. Incredibly dangerous. Carpet soiled. Bedroom, slats on bed broken, so would not have been able to sleep on it. Mattress torn and ripped. Vinyl floor ripped up. Window jammed closed. Bathroom, fecal matter on light switch. Mirror broken. Toilet had not been cleaned. Still had fecal stains in bowl. Shower door broken off hinges. Vinyl floor torn up. Kitchen and living room. Washing machine broken. All drawers and fridge freezer absent or broken beyond repair. Gas cooker, missing burner caps and pan rail, therefore unusable. 2 cupboard doors hanging off. Vinyl floor ripped up. Curtain pole ripped down. It was very clear that 2 things had occurred here. The first being, the previous tenants had done a bit of a number on the property, that they had not respected the property, and had left quite a lot of damage in their wake. They did not even have the decency to empty the place of their contents, and at bare minimum, take the rubbish out before leaving. The second issue, however, is that the landlord had evidently not made any significant attempt to bring the property back into a habitable state prior to me moving in. Being the reasonable guy that I was, I called the landlord and asked if he could resolve these issues immediately. Primarily as the property was genuinely in a dangerous and non-inhabitable state. I did not want to be a jerk about it. However, at the bare minimum, the flat should be safe to inhabit. The landlord dismissed all of my complaints and stated that his wife, he was on a business trip to Dubai, had inspected and cleaned the property a few days before, and all was fine. A blatant lie. I told him that I was extremely unhappy with the situation, and he told me to adhere to the contract which I had signed. He subsequently put the phone down. Any sympathy I had for the landlord evaporated at this moment. He was happy for me to live in a dangerous property. So I went through my contract line by line and found 2 key pieces of information. If property is deemed to be in breach of fire regulations and or is deemed uninhabitable by a suitable representative, it is the responsibility of the landlord to resolve such issues immediately. If the landlord cannot resolve such issues immediately, it is the responsibility of the landlord to provide alternative accommodation to the tenant until the property is returned to a habitable state. Fortunately, a close member of my family at the time was a fellow of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Within the hour, I had a formal letter stating that the property was uninhabitable and dangerous. I had this emailed to the landlord, address helpfully listed on the contract. Within 10 minutes, I had a call from him arranging emergency accommodation at a local hotel until he returned from his business trip 3 days later. On his return, he drove directly to the property from the airport and returned the checks for my deposit and first month's rent to me and asked me to move out, which I gladly did. Unbeknownst to him, a copy of the letter had been sent by my family member to the housing ombudsman and the local authority. The last thing I heard is that this bloke ended up being investigated, heavily fined, and had to sell the house. What a jerk of a landlord. What did he think was gonna happen? It's really annoying when either tenants or landlords, either one, violate the contract, because when it's someone's housing and someone's livelihood, you shouldn't mess around with that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.